If you're here to mock me like everybody else, you could just leave. Okay, happy Christmas to you too. What the hell is this? That belonged to my late grandmother. He's gorgeous. What do you have there? Nothing. It's December. Is that your Goodreads challenge? Fine. Yes. Yes. Can I see? 8 books behind. I know. Are you trying to log children's books? No. Humpty Dumpty. Give it back. You can't do this. And why not? Because this is cheating. Well, what am I supposed to do? It's the last month of the year and I have no idea what to read at this point. So if you have something very convenient in that blue box of yours, now would be the time to speak up, Nutcracker Man. End of the year, you're feeling stale, never fear, because Book of the Month is here to keep things new, exciting, fresh. Always new releases. Back at the office, we pick 5 to 7 new, upcoming, beautiful releases, and I think you're really gonna love the ones that I've selected for you this month. Forget the children's books, we've got a compelling collection of short stories. It's perfect for your goals, you can do this. Adeptly attuned to the mystery of living, Tomb Sweeping invites us to consider whether one person can ever entirely do right by another. And can they? You do even better if you had something to do with the Nutcracker in there. Oh my god. The Kingdom of Sweets by Erica Johansson. Do you know that she wrote one of my favorite fantasy series, Queen of the Tearling? A Nutcracker retelling. Christmas miracles really do come true. What would be a miracle is you finishing that Goodreads challenge. Where are you shipping to this month? All over. Shipping right to everyone's front door. You know, you're kind of like a bookish Santa Claus. If you allow me to spread a bit more holiday joy, then I should let you know that your subscribers can use the code Emmy to get their first book for $5. That's a hardcover for $5. This is very kind of you. Until next year's book subscription craziness continues. Will finish my Goodreads challenge or I will die trying. I would keep an eye on this thing if I were you. Happy Christmas. Where can I put this? Maybe just on my head. It's me. Should I wear this the whole video? Probably not. Ebenezer. Welcome back for, I think, the 4th year running now of my winter cozy, kind of Christmassy. This year there's not a ton of Christmas, but definitely perfect for winter books. This is my 4th year doing this video. There have been no repeats up to date. I don't think so. So if you want to go snoop out the previous 3 years, please feel free to have a look. Here are this year's winter recommendations for you. It is currently, just really coming down. It's so beautiful. I wish I could pan you over to see because it's, wow, you should be honored that I'm in here with you right now and not absolutely grabbing my coat. Let me just give you the book recommendations. This first book does have snow on the cover, just like the snow outside, and it is The Dollmaker of Krakow by R.M. Romero. I read this last year, so good. I highly recommend. Obviously, it's on this video. This is a middle grade. It hits really hard, packs a punch, incredibly stirring, emotional, really well done. It's just really, really beautiful, and on top of that, it comes with illustrations, which just makes it even better. So The Dollmaker is about this man. He's not young anymore. He's fought in the First World War, but now that the Second World War is rolling around, he is seeing the effects on his own Polish community. He is trying to help in whatever way that he can. We also get the perspective of this doll named Katarina, and she comes from the land of the dolls. So she's not from Earth. There's also a war going on in her world. It's her people against the evil rats. So there are a bunch of Nutcracker elements in the Dollmaker as well, but she gets transported when things are going really, really badly in her own war back at home. She gets transported into our world and into the toy shop of our man. The Dollmaker is shocked to learn that Carolina is a doll who can talk and who has like opinions about what's going on and may have advice or be able to help somewhat with the war and the effects of the war that is going on in the Dollmaker's life. The Dollmaker becomes fast friends with another man, a father, and their young daughter, and so does Katerina. So the four of them become like this group who are definitely sharing more than one secret, because of course they have a talking doll in their midst. It is beautiful. It's really, really beautiful. The pacing is great. The writing is really beautiful, and there's so many elements in here that are just so cool. So that is the Dollmaker. I would highly recommend. Okay, next up this year, I want to recommend you Winter in Sokcho by Elisa Choi du Sapin. So I found this at an airport and I picked it up and I read it, and it is really good. It is, I believe, her debut novel. Yeah, we follow a young Korean French woman. I don't think that her dad, who is the Frenchman, is in the picture, or that she knows him anymore. She works a little bit begrudgingly as the receptionist for her family's guest house that's very run down. So they live on a border town between South and North Korea, and in the summer this place, Sokcho, is like thriving. It is a beach town, lots of tourists come, it's known for its beach resorts and its summer vibes. But in the winter, because it's winter in Sokcho now, things are very different. It's deserted, it's run down, and it's extremely cold, and things that are maybe glossed over more in the summer, the war, her life, her complicated relationship with herself, with her family, with the barbed wire on the beaches, for example, with like the active signs of war that is still going on. It's not so easy to hide anymore. So when a young French graphic novelist shows up at the guest house, he's like, oh my gosh, you know what? You're part French, you're also Korean, you can show me around and show me like the authentic Korea and Koreanness that I am missing. And so she begins to take him during her work days to different places that she thinks are important to her, and like really show something true about where she lives or her country, and he just kind of uses it all for his art without really comprehending too much. So many different little things are explored in this book. It's unsettling, it's uneasy, it takes a little bit to parcel out the repetition of certain motifs and elements, especially to do with bodies, barbed wire, scars, eating disorders, fish. Really cool. This is a book that I would definitely read again, and I highly recommend if you're looking for something a little bit different and very good. So that is Winter in Sokcho. Now, if you're looking for something absolutely miserable and depressing this holiday season, look no more. Ethan Frome by Edith Wharton. It's not a good time. It's not a good time. It's straight up not a good time, y'all. Misery everywhere, but really, winter is like that. It gets harder to ignore the misery. And I think that's one of the reasons I love winter. It kind of like confronts you. It makes you confront things. The season, at least here, isn't here to cover anything up. I mean, in terms of the weather, it strips everything away and you're just left with the barren cold. And you're like, oh. Is winter the most literary season to me? Probably. As you can imagine, Edith Wharton possibly also thinks so as well, and Ethan Frome is, like I said, an absolutely unhappy little novel about tragic love. And it's set in the wintertime in the small town in Massachusetts, I believe. No, in New England. Classic novel of despair, forbidden emotions, and sexual undercurrents set against the New England countryside. So we have this man, his name is Ethan. He is living with his wife named Zena. You can tell it's been a while since I've read this. I first read this in high school. Zena is not really the best life partner. She's probably not someone you want as a life partner. Maybe Ethan isn't either. They don't really get along very well. Zena is a hypochondriac. She has pretty severe reactions to like her own health or stuff to do with medical and health anxiety. So she's always kind of fixating and obsessing over herself and her health and her body and thinking she's ill at all times. This, among other things, has driven Ethan away from her. He's pretty lonely. He's very lonely, especially living in the New England countryside where there's not a lot of people, there's not a lot going on, they're not well off. So when Zena's cousin Maddie comes to visit them, all hell kind of breaks loose. Ethan's like, oh my god, Maddie's really pretty. I really like Maddie. She feels alive in a way that my wife is not. I'm sorry, these first 3 that I recommended, they're not really like bundle up and smile and go pick a Christmas tree off the shelf or, you know, cut it down. They're not happy ones is what I'm trying to say. And Wharton is just, yeah, amazing. I mean, it's so good. About a mile further, on a road I had never traveled, we came to an orchard of starved apple trees, writhing over a hillside among outcroppings of slate that nuzzled up through the snow like animals pushing out their noses to breathe. Beyond the orchard lay a field or 2, their boundaries lost under drifts, and above the fields, huddled against the white immensities of land and sky, one of those lonely New England farmhouses that make the landscape lonelier. Feel free to go, you know, be a puddle of misery. You have it from me. Okay. Oh no. Okay, we gotta switch this up. This next book is not misery. Do not worry. It is one of the cutest things I've ever written. Oh, I didn't write this. I wish I did. It is one of the cutest things I've ever read. It is heartwarming, and one of my favorite books of this year. It's a 5-star from me, and I read this when I wanted like a little bit more of winter when December was over, and I think I read this in either February maybe, when I was like, no, I'm not ready to give winter up yet, and that is Ember and the Ice Dragons by Heather Fawcett. I love this cover so much, and just like holding this, I was like a little ambivalent about buying this because I didn't know if it was going to be too young for me since it is a middle grade, or if it was going to be very good at all. But I'm so pleased to report that Heather Fawcett, I mean, she's becoming the author of this year for me, and with good reason. Ember and the Ice Dragons was magical, quirky in a way that is natural, that is beautiful, that is breathable, that's readable, because sometimes the quirkiness of a novel is just too much and it feels like it's there for no reason. But because Ember and the Ice Dragons, the novel is set in a world that is magical. There is magic. We followed this young girl named Ember. She is a dragon who has been transformed to have the body of a human because her adoptive father, who is a scientist who's studying a bunch of things, dragonfire being one of them, he comes across Ember as a little baby dragon, but her parents have been killed by poachers for their scales and other riches. So he takes Ember in and he raises her as a human child. It's really heartwarming. It definitely has elements of his dark materials because just like Lyra is raised at Oxford, Ember is also raised on a university campus since her father is a professor. The inclusion of magic in here and like different spell work is so believable, so well written. You're like delighted in it, like you delight in it. It's not too much, it's not overdone. It feels like the perfect, it just feels real. And it feels believable, and it feels like a world that is out there. But Ember has a problem because as she's growing older, hasn't been able to stop randomly combusting, bursting into flames, and she's really worried that one day this is going to seriously injure or kill her friends and her family and the people she has around her, including her cat. And Ember hears that her kind of reclusive, mysterious aunt is heading off and living in Antarctica, and she's a scientist there and she has like a research station. Ember is like, I need to take myself away from everything I know just to protect the people that I love. So she goes to stay with her aunt in Antarctica, and lots of things happen because in Antarctica there may or may not be the last surviving dragons. Who are the ice dragons? Maybe. I don't know. I mean, the dragon's on the cover, so. Of course, this then does delve into like more poaching. This is set in a world where England very much makes Antarctica part of its empire because this is set during the Victorian period. He comes to Antarctica and there's like a royal palace in Antarctica, and it's very, very, very interesting. There's actually a lot to say in here in this middle grade book about expansion and empire and poaching, and it's just, I was blown away, like literally blown away. If you're looking for something to warm you up, Ember and the Ice Dragons for sure. Okay, one I just want to speak briefly about because I want you to go into this one like I went into it, and that was knowing nothing, is Heaven and Hell by Jon Kalman Stefansson. So this one I found at a bookshop in Iceland. I had never heard of it before, but it became one of my favorite books of last year. Another 5-star. This one goes on the winter list because it's set in Iceland during the winter. It's not a warm place to be. In fact, the people in here, I believe it's like 1900, I think, I'm pretty sure. They are trying to survive and make their living by fishing cod, which is a huge part and was a huge part of Iceland's economy and trade. So we are following principally 2 people, 2 friends, one middle-aged man and one younger boy who become fast friends in their like fishing crew. And they're a little bit different from everyone else around them because everyone else is very practical. They're very concerned with just surviving, nothing more, just fishing. But Bartur, I hope I'm saying that right, his young friend, they love poetry. They really like poetry. Above all else, they love Paradise Lost, which features prominently in Heaven and Hell. And this may or may not lead them into some trouble. This is one of the most interestingly written books that I've read in a long time. Definitely gets that award. The narrative style is gorgeous. It's not narrated by anyone in our fishing group. In fact, it might not be narrated by anyone strictly alive in human terms. I would highly suggest you give this one a go. As you can see, it's just one of the most beautifully written books I've ever read. It's gorgeous from the first page all the way to the last. There's like unexpected humor. There's so much to do with land and sky and Iceland's geography, fishing, poetry, love, grief is a huge theme in here. I have a romance that I'm not sure everyone is gonna like because I didn't like love this, but I've heard so many people adore it. And it's perfect for winter because it's from Lukov with Love by Mariana Zapata. This is a figure skating romance and it is long. It is extremely slow burn. It's rivals to lovers and a little bit enemies to lovers, but not really enemies, more so rivals. I would definitely categorize this as rivals because we fought Jasmine and Ivan. They're both figure skaters. They're both professional skaters. That's how they've tried to make their living. Ivan has been a ton more successful. He's definitely had the more successful career of the two, but Jasmine has really struggled and been set back by a bunch of things. Her latest setback is being pretty much abandoned by her skating partner because they skate in pairs. So when Ivan specifically requests Jasmine, she's like, this is like the last thing that could ever improve my career. This is my last chance. I'm getting too old. I'm like the ripe age of 20. It's all over for me. But she's also very surprised that Ivan has asked for her because they hate each other. They have had so many fights, disagreements, just unfortunate run-ins over the years because obviously they've both been trained at the same skating center, they've grown up together, they've competed together, and they don't like each other very much. So their partnership is bound to be a very interesting one, shall we say. So Zapata is known as like the queen of slow burn. I wouldn't say that for me she's ever going to be known as the queen of good writing. From Lukov with Love sometimes was very grating to read. I think Zapata writes her characters, and especially the way that they speak and the way that they their inner monologues are, as much younger than the characters actually are, which is kind of grating to me, and it was just a little bit embarrassing and cringy. Once you get past, I don't know, all of the cringy nicknames and name calling, I did eventually, throughout the 500 pages, right? It's like 5, yeah, start to enjoy Jasmine and Ivan's relationship. I was really into this book. I really wanted to read this book because, I mean, as a Canadian, I love Yuma. How can you not? I mean, everyone must love them. Tessa Virtue and Scott Moyer. Maybe just like get to know them, watch videos of their ice skating. It's just so good. It's so good. It's so good. So good. The amount of times I watched their last ice dance. Stupid. It's stupid. The amount of times I watched that video, it's just so... wow. That is from Lukov with Love. I have a couple more books. The first is one of the books I've most recently read, and that is A Wolf for a Spell by Kara Sutton. This one you could definitely fit into an autumnal recommendations or winter because there's winter featured in here. We follow a wolf whose name is Zima, which means winter in Russian. It's a retelling of Baba Yaga. There's a lot to do with the forest, a lot to do with different folk tales, and it was really sweet. It does read on the younger side of middle grade, but if you want a story with like hidden identities, the forest being a huge part of the narrative. Just a bunch of different characters running to each other in the woods, causing mischief, causing mayhem, and having to save their world. I would recommend A Wolf for a Spell. Finally, we have another classic. 100% a classic to me. It is gorgeous, 5 stars. One of my favorite books of all time, and that is The Bloody Chamber by Angela Carter. I put this one on here because there are more than a few stories in The Bloody Chamber, which is a collection of Angela Carter's retellings, dark retellings of fairy tales, gothic retellings that are so beautiful. These are some of the most beautiful words I've like literally ever read in my life. That's not an exaggeration. It's just mind-blowing, breathtaking, seriously. But in The Bloody Chamber there are about 3, I want to say 3 or 4, that really have to do with the winter. The writing is just so sumptuous, so sexy, so, oh my god. I would highly recommend The Courtship. I would recommend The Tiger's Bride, The Errol King, The Snow Child, and then The Werewolf, The Company of Wolves, Wolf Alice. Pretty much any of the wolf ones, those are also really, really great. It is delicious. This collection makes me absolutely feral. The Werewolf. It is a northern country. They have cold weather. They have cold hearts. Cold, tempest, wild beasts in the forest. It is a hard life. Their houses are built of logs, dark and smoky within. There will be a crude icon of the Virgin behind a guttering candle, the leg of a pig hung up to cure, a string of drying mushrooms. A bed, a stool, a table. Harsh, brief, poor lives. To these upland woodsmen, the devil is as real as you or I. More so. They have not seen us, nor even know that we exist, but the devil they glimpse often in the graveyards, those bleak and touching townships of the dead, where their graves are marked with portraits of the deceased in the naive style, and there are no flowers to put in front of them. No flowers grow there, so they put out small votive offerings, little loaves, sometimes a cake that the bears come lumbering from the margins of the forest to snatch away. Before I just read this whole thing out loud to you, that is The Bloody Chamber. I hope you found a few moments peace with this year's iteration of the winter video. I am wishing you a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for hanging out. I'll see you in my next video very soon. So, ciao.